Send parameters in a URL. Now we're going to see how we can actually send parameters or data in a URL, in a link of different parts of the application. So I can send parameters to external forms, to start message event forms, to filters of libraries and dictionary, filters of reports, filters of families of records, filters of accounts families, filters of any external application that accepts parameters. So we're going to enter the application and we're going to see a couple examples. Well, before we show how to send parameters to a part of the platform, I'm going to show how to send parameters to an external application. So basically when I enter, for example, let me try this one out. Google Maps parameters, if I enter their documentation, I have information here on how I have to send these parameters. So it's going to give me information like this would be the URL, this would be the key, and these would be the parameters that I can deliver. And it gives me several examples. If I want to see more of these examples, in order to send parameters to the platform, to any link that we have inside of the platform, the ones we just mentioned, all we have to do is enter the documentation. But I'm going to show you the basics here before going to the documentation. To do the exercise, all we need to know is, in order to send a parameter, we need a link. For example, a link to start message event form. Now, here we can see we have a link. This would be A. In this case, it's the URL to access this start message event form. After that, we have B. We call all of this here a string. So this is a string. In the string, we can find a key. The key identifies the beginning of the data string. Then we can find E. That would be the data that we want to deliver to that URL, to this URL that we're going to open. So if I deliver this value to Yoda, that means that I'm trying to push this information to the start message event when I initiate the process. I want this information to appear somewhere. Where do I want it to be displayed? I want it to be displayed in the destination. So we can see that the D is this value here. Here I'm going to indicate the internal name of the field that's going to contain this value or this parameter that I'm going to send to the start message event. That means if I open this link with this key, with this destination field, with this parameter, that means that this field here is going to contain this parameter. Now, these parameters can be either static because I just type in something here, or they can be dynamic because I've mapped it with another field that we have in some other part of the application. So maybe I'm running a process and I want certain values from one process to be delivered to the parameters that I'm going to send to this start message event. So we're going to see how to do this. The first thing I want to show you is how we could send, for example, parameters to a URL of an external application. That would be quite easy. All we have to do is use the URL. After that, here we have a key. It always starts like this. And then here we have to indicate, for example, New York. And this would be the value that we're passing. I'm going to hit the button enter. And we can see this took us to New York in the States. Now I'm going to change the link and I'm going to put here, for example, Bangalore, India. Now I hit enter and we can see it took us to Bangalore. Okay, if I want to change it, here I can input, for example, Madrid. So whatever parameters we're sending here, this external application is accepting these parameters in order to position me in a certain location. Okay, so we know how to send parameters to this external application. Now we're going to see how to do the same thing with this platform. Let's say I go to processes and I've got two processes here. One of them is called survey feedback. And all it has is a start message event and an end. So what we want to do, we want to launch this process. Here we have the form. And there's two fields here. We have a name and we have a one-line text field. I want to give the users a URL, a link, so when they click on it, this name is already populated and this one-line text field is already populated. How am I going to do that? I'm going to this other process It's called create and send survey. And basically here we're going to start the process. We're going to upload the name of a movie or something in the start message event, and afterwards in this notification we're going to send the information through these images. Okay, so basically here what we're going to do, we're going to have the name of the movie in the panel of this process and some of the data, and we're going to send those parameters to a URL that's going to allow me to launch this start message event that's in another process, but sending certain parameters so these fields are already populated. Okay, so how have we done that? We've created a link. I'm going to enter this image. I'm going to double click on the image, and when I go to link, we can see we've copied the link of the start message event that we want to launch when someone clicks on this image. So if I click here, it's going to launch this start message event. But we also sent a couple parameters. So here we have the key and it ends with this equal symbol. And here we have the parameters. We've actually sent two parameters. Here we have one, and here we have the other parameter. Now, we always start with 3 brackets. We open these 3 brackets and we close it with another 3 brackets. And here we have the internal name that's going to set the parameters, and this is the value I'm going to send, number 1. Okay, so I'm going to send number 1 to a field that's called one line text. And this is the second parameter. I'm going to send to a field that's called name whatever value I have in this field that's called name in the source panel. So basically I'm mapping the field from the source to the destination. And I've done the same thing with all the images, but obviously in each one of these images I've got a different number. For example, here when I go to link, here we have in the one line text we have number 5. If I go to this other one, number 3, if I click on it, I go to link, we can see the parameter that's going to be sent to this one line text field is number 3. So depends on where I click, it's going to send a 1, a 2, a 3. But then there's a dynamic parameter, and it's the parameter name. So this field here is mapped inside of the link, so we can display the value of this field inside of the destination field that's also called name. We have to take into account that when we're indicating the fields of the destination process, all we have to do is put the internal name. But if they're from the source process, we have to put this PNL in front. Okay, so the same as here. When it's a source field, it's always going to appear with PNL 3 name. It's quite easy because all we have to do is click here, go to panel, select the field we want, for example, name and address, set the selection, and they'll already appear with this format. So now when I want to copy one of these, all I have to do is click Control C or Control X, go to the link, and drop it in here. Okay, so I'm good to go. I'm not going to save it, I'll just leave it as it was. And we're going to run some tests. In order to run some tests, I'm going to start this process called survey. So I'm going to copy the link. I'm going to launch the process. So I have a movie here, it's called Titanic, and here I have the addressees. So I'm going to send this notification with this value to all of these addressees. Now I finished, the message has been received. I'll click on it and we can see the email, and I've got all these different values. If I click on number 5, it's going to take me to the start message event, and it's going to send these parameters like the number 5 and the word Titanic. So in the URL we can see that these parameters have been delivered from the source process to the destination. Okay, I'm going to test this one more time. I'm going to paste the link again. I'm going to add maybe the name of a different movie. I'm going to click on send. And now I should receive another email. There we go. I'll click on it. Here I have the new email. And this time when I click here, for example, on number 2, we can see it's sending me the value tenet and number 2. So this is how we send parameters from the source to the destination. If we want to look up more details, more information, or how to create more advanced strings, we can always go to the knowledge base and check the documentation. Here we can see the knowledge base with this document that explains with much more detail how to send parameters. Besides, we have information, let me make it a little bit larger. We have information on how to create these simple strings. It gives us all the information we just saw. There's also several examples. It allows us to learn a bit more in detail how to create fixed parameters, how to create, how to add these parameters, for example, as in the example I just showed, to images or to links, how to send dynamic parameters, and how to create more advanced strings. So here we can see a simple example. These strings could be sending values to groups of fields and to other fields that are a bit more complex. So if we enter here, we can see all kinds of examples of advanced strings where we're sending different parameters, for example, to a group of fields. So if we're interested in knowing more, we can enter this document and we have quite a bit more information. Exercise 402, Part 3. Thank you for your attention.